Canon just released a major firmware update, one that's been promised since early April. And Canon is also offering a free gift to those that are purchasing the Canon EOS R5, the R3, and the R6 Mark II. Now, there are some details that you're going to want to know about, so I've got those coming up after this short break. But first, please do me a favor. Follow me on Twitter, but most importantly, please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything and really does help this channel grow. And if you're already a subscriber, thanks so much for your support. This video is all about a firmware update for the Canon EOS R5C. Not the R5, not the version 2.0, not the big one promised for that one, but this goes back to April the 3rd when Canon promised a major firmware update for the Canon EOS R5C. For many, they've felt that they've been left out, that they've been let down, that Canon doesn't care about them anymore. And this firmware update released yesterday proves that that isn't the case. I should have had this firmware update, this video out to you yesterday, but you see, I was on a plane on my way back from British Columbia, and I just didn't feel like recording a video on a firmware update in a plane in coach. It just probably would have been all sorts of wrong. The people beside me probably would have hated it, although the guy beside me on this side was fast asleep. And on the other side, I had a nice gentleman and his family, 2 kids. The noise from the engines probably wouldn't have helped, so I decided, you know what, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to cover it tomorrow, and I'm going to talk about a free gift. This one right here, we're going to talk about it after we talk about the firmware update. So the R5C firmware update 1.0.4.1 is a big one. Now, all these following features, the ability to display metadata, such as the model number and the focus distance of the lens attached, being able to display the T number, support for peripheral illumination correction and chromatic lens aberration correction, dual pixel autofocus, all that stuff. It's specific to CN E14 to 35 millimeter, T1.7 LS, the E20 to 50 millimeter, the 45 to 135, and of course the 8x15 IS SE1. We also have the ability now to switch lens functions, and this is available for the RFS 18 to 45 millimeter, although I'd be surprised if you're using this lens with this camera. Also with the RFS 18 to 150, f3.5 to 6.3. And the 0.71x mount adapter is now compatible with all these lenses, all these CN lenses, and all these EF lenses. That's quite a group there. Of course, the 135, that's one of my favorites. And of course, the EF 50mm f1.2, that is the lens that started this channel. I ran with that lens for about a good solid year before switching over to the RF version. And I gotta say, I still have a special place in my heart for that EF lens. In fact, when I'm doing my run and gun stuff, I'd rather have the EF version than the RF version. So if anybody's out there looking at selling the EF version and you're in the Greater Toronto area, reach out to me because I'm really interested in purchasing that old EF version, because when you're shooting video, you're shooting run and gun, it's virtually silent. The microphone doesn't pick it up, whereas the RF version, yeah, it sounds like a squirrel chewing on a nut, and it's really annoying, so I have to mic up my talent with one of these, and I'd rather use a shotgun mic when I'm doing run and guns. So anyhow, let's get back to the update. When working in 8K RAW with a VR lens attached, it now enables left and right switching when one touch is using magnify. When recording in 8K RAW with a VR lens attached, you can now enable left and right switching with one-hand touch using magnify. And it also enables magnify during 8K MP4 recording, although this isn't available with HDMI 4K output. And this is a big one. This is one of the biggest promises made back in April about this firmware update, is that it enables or saves time when switching from photo and video mode. So if you're going from video to photo, it saves approximately 70% of the time, whereas going from photo to video, it saves approximately 40% of the time. And that's a really huge update because what does it take now? About 9, 10, 11 seconds? That's a huge amount of time. You could actually pick up another camera in less time and start shooting with it. You could have the R5C around your neck as well as the R5, and manually switching between the two cameras would be a whole lot quicker, including if you had to actually turn the camera on. So this huge time savings of 70%, 40%, that's a really big deal. And that alone, as far as I'm concerned, is worth the update to 1.0.4.1. It now adds a power saving mode. I really appreciate that because most of the times I leave my camera in the on mode so I can pick it up and quickly start recording. So that's a really nice enhancement as well. It also enhances the clear scan resolution and adds a digital teleconverter function of 1.5 to 2.5 and 3 times. Another big feature here is the enablement or the ability to change the waveform size. So that's really nice. You can change the placement, you can change the size. I personally like it really big, but there are times when you want to have it small. And it enables the ability to change the vector scope gain by touch. Another big feature, as well as the opacity or the opacity of the waveform display or the vector scope. So those are really handy enhancements. And we get a multitude of autofocus performance improvements. It now enables tracking frame to change the variability depending on the subject. And it enables the ability to detect heads facing sideways and backwards. This is really key because a lot of times you start off with people looking directly at you, and then they change directions, and sometimes the focus moves off them and onto someone else. It also works in situations when we're wearing a helmet, such as vehicle detection when you're doing motorsports. But you're going to love this last one here. It now enables face detection via the ring dial. Using that ring dial, that is really key. That's really significant because a lot of times you're shooting, you're thinking, well, okay, right now I'm shooting people. I'm going to go for eye detection. Now I want to do single point detection. And sometimes you even want to go from people to animals and back and forth. And to be able to have the ability to use that ring dial to control your autofocus capabilities, that's a big deal. And we get a bunch of other various bug fixes and enhancements. We get the ability to choose the subject or select the subject by that ring dial again. It adds Rec 709 or Canon 709, BT 709 to the gamma color space in custom picture setting, but it also adds CMT 709 to proxy rec colors conversion as well as view assist, and it adds G-gain in white balance in custom picture settings. And lastly, it adds support for 4CH display in the audio meter. I told you this firmware update had an awful lot to offer, that it's a big deal. And well, I talked about this way back in early April when we got this leaked. Well, it wasn't really leaked, was it? It was actually coming out from Canon saying, hey, look, if you own the Canon EOS R5C and a few other cameras, you're going to be getting a major update starting in late June and all the way into July. So this isn't just for the Canon C70. Sorry, I let something out of the bag here. This isn't just for the Canon EOS R5C. We're going to see a firmware update for the C70 and a few other cameras coming out over the next couple of weeks and months, or at least leading up to the end of July when it's my birthday. But now I want to turn to something else. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Simon, what about the firmware update for the Canon EOS R5? You said it was going to be coming out last week, and it didn't. Yes, you're correct. And actually, I do want to apologize. I did tweet this out, but many of you didn't get the tweet. So please go ahead and follow me on Twitter using this address here, because sometimes if I'm making corrections or I've got news stories that aren't quite big enough to have their own separate video, I'll tweet them out. You see, when I was talking to my source, we were talking about an awful lot of different things, different firmware updates, Canon R1, the Canon EOS R5 Mark II, and a few things. I was still talking on firmware updates and my source had moved off. So I said, when are we getting the firmware update for the R5? And he said, next week. I said, next week, are you sure? He said, yes. So I ran with that in a story I published, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Well, he had moved off onto a different subject, was talking about something else, and so got the wires crossed. What I can tell you as far as the R5 firmware update goes, whether it's a big one or a minor one, we are expecting several updates. I don't know if the next one's going to be a major one or just a minor one like a 1.9, but he told me that it's going to be released when it's ready, so it isn't ready right now. Canon's working on it. We are getting some firmware updates. It's just get ready. The second half of this year is going to be absolutely incredible. Now I want to move off onto another subject here. You might notice that I have a frame here, and it's for the 50th anniversary of Canon Canada from 1973 to 2023. And to celebrate their anniversary, if you purchase the Canon EOS R3, the EOS R5, or the EOS R6 Mark II by July the 6th in Canada, they will give you this free poster. I think it's absolutely beautiful that they chose the Canon AE1, which goes back, some 50 years? It's beautiful. And you can't really see the detail in this video here, but it's not just a simple print. It's embossed. It's got reflections. It's got gold print for the cameras down at the bottom, showing the Canon EOS 650 in 1987, the Canon EOS 1N in 1994, the Canon EOS 5D Mark II in 2003, and the Canon EOS R5 in 2020. And then right at the bottom, it's got the Canadian flag, followed by Canon Canada 50 years, and then the number, and I've got 157 of 750, making it a collector's edition. And that was pretty nice. It was, last week, I was in Vancouver, I was in British Columbia for the entire week, and I was in a different time zone. I was completely exhausted. I was only getting about, I think the first few nights I got about 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but after that I was getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep. I was exhausted. I was getting up at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning local time, which was 6 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time, which is when I normally wake up. So I stayed on that time zone, and then all of a sudden I see something show up through my Ring camera, and my neighbor came over and said, "Hey, look, you got a package from Canon. It's a big one." And you should have seen the size of the box. It was hulking big. It was thick like this because this has a frame in it, and I don't know if that's glass or plastic. I can't tell. I don't want to wrap it or hit it hard enough to be able to identify it. But it got here completely unscratched, unfazed. Canon did a really good job protecting it. Let's cover off some of the details first. So if you're in Canada, you don't have to be Canadian, but if you're in Canada and you purchase the R5, the R6 Mark II, or the Canon EOS R3, if you purchase them before July the 6th, 2023, Canon will give you a free poster. Now, they will frame it for you. Mine came framed, and they'll frame it for you. There is a fee. I don't have the fee at this point. It's Saturday when I'm shooting this, and of course, people aren't working on Saturday, so I think it's pretty nice. I don't know where I'm going to put it in my studio. It doesn't really kind of fit here. I could put it up high, but then you won't see it. So I got to figure a place where I can put this. Maybe I'll put it upstairs where I do my live streaming, but it's a nice looking poster. And, you know, it kind of takes you back in the history, the AE1 and all the details about that camera. But this video could go on to another, well, 20 or 30 minutes if I spend it talking about the AE1. But one other thing that this poster represents to me is growth. And, you know, here I am at 40,000 subscribers. I've been doing this for 3.5 years. And for Canon Canada, try that again. I'm still a little bit stuffed up from, you know, that cold that I had about 3 weeks ago. So just bear with me. But what this represents to me too is that, you know, I'm on Canon's radar. I'm on Canon Canada, Canon USA's radar, and that's really a big deal. When Canon USA sends out a survey, quite often I'm one of the channels that they mention. And for Canon Canada to package this up, ship it out to me and ask me, "Hey, do you want to let your subscribers know about this?" I thought, wow, I'm on the radar, and that's a big deal to me, to be recognized. Hey, we know you're there. We know your channel. Maybe you could do us a favor. Maybe you could help us out. We've got this great promotion coming on, 50th anniversary of Canon Canada, and we want you to let your subscribers know that if they purchase a Canon R5, R3, and R6 Mark II in Canada, up until July the 6th, we'll give you this free gift. And I think that's a pretty big deal. You know, I had Nikon Canada on my live stream for the Nikon Z8 last month, and I got to tell you, I put in an awful lot of work and a lot of time in this channel to get recognized by Nikon Canada last week, Nikon USA last year, and Canon Canada this year. It's a really big deal. So Canon Canada, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to let people know about this free gift that you're giving away, the Canon AE1. And again, it's limited until July the 6th. And if you want to stay up to date on all the latest camera news and rumors, when we're getting the big Canon EOS R5 firmware update, information about the Canon EOS R5 Mark II, the Canon EOS R1, or what's latest from Sony, like the A9 Mark III, or the A9 III as most Sony customers call it, whether the A9 III is going to have a CF Express Type B card slot or not. Otherwise, how else is it going to be the fastest continuous shooting camera unless they're going to do some sort of, well, 11 megapixel JPEG? Now, there's some noise here, and we'll just have to wait and see. And of course, Panasonic being very quiet about the S1 and the S1H. And we're not done with Nikon either. The Z7 Mark III, the Z6 Mark III, all this coming up shortly. So if you want to stay up to date on all the latest camera news and rumors, don't forget to subscribe and choose all notification. And for all the minor news and rumors, well, then go ahead and follow me on Twitter. Like that correction I provided to the Canon EOS R5 firmware update. As soon as I found out I was wrong, I tweeted that out. But also, anytime there's a major sale on, like the Canon EOS R5 right now in Canada, it's $500 off. And that's one thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about this free gift. It's $500 off here in Canada, $47.99. It's also on sale in the United States. In US dollars, it's $32.99 in Adorama, and that gets you a free battery grip as well as a free EF to RF adapter. It's also on sale at B&H, although you don't get the free EF to RF adapter. And yes, at present, you do have to put in these annoying coupon codes, so you have to add them to your cart, apply the coupon code, and then you'll see the price. Pretty amazing. $32.99 for the Canon EOS R5. Still, well, arguably one of the best cameras out there today. I've been shooting with it over 1,100 videos. I just got back from Vancouver, if you can believe this, with 330 gigabytes of 4K video, 8K oversample 4K video. So pretty impressive. And I will be over the following weeks as I'm developing the video. And yes, I am developing it because I shot it in C-Log 3. So I have to go through and do an awful lot of, well, I have to do color correction, I have to do white balancing, I have to do some other things. And because I'm shooting with a hood, every now and then if I pan, I do get that hood in the frame, so I have to crop just a little bit. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for watching my video mistakes during this week. It wasn't that easy shooting in Vancouver because I didn't have all the gear I needed for studio shooting. I just had gear for run and gun, which is why I decided in my last video, and go ahead and take a look at the last video I shot. I shot it down on the beach, English Bay at Jericho Beach, and I'm very happy with the results. The video looks good, the audio's great. Just makes me wish I was still back there. It's just absolutely beautiful. And I shouldn't complain. It's what? It's 60 degrees right now, going up to 73 degrees, so around 22 degrees Celsius. Beautiful blue sky. It's beautiful here too. No sign of the forest fires or the smoke, so I shouldn't be complaining, right? I mean, life is good. Anyhow, or another expression, any day above ground is a good day, right? Anyhow, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.